That's great. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our,
Recording in progress.
all right. Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our Tuesday, November 21st, actually November 23rd, Redistricting Ad Hoc Committee meeting. In accordance with the Government Code, Section 54953E, this meeting will be conducted by webinar and teleconference only. A physical location has not been provided for this meeting. Roll call, Madam Secretary.
Director Coleman,
Present.
Director Young. You're on mute. You're on mute.
I can see that she's present.
Yes.
I'll confirm that.
And President Lenny.
I am present.
I'm here. I was trying to adjust my background and I couldn't get this. I'm not fully acquainted with this new laptop.
You're excused for that. Oh, you have a laptop now, though. Oh,
Yeah,
that's
well,
great.
they made us, switch.
Okay. If members of the public wish to speak on an agenda or non-agenda item, please use the raise your hand feature in Zoom. Comments on non-agenda items will be heard first at the beginning of the meeting, and comments on agenda items will be heard when the item comes up for consideration. When prompted, please state your name, affiliation, if applicable, and topic. Secretary will call each speaker in the order received. You'll be allotted 3 minutes to speak. Secretary will keep track of time and inform each speaker when the allotted time has concluded. Do we have any speakers on subjects not covered in this meeting?
I don't have any hands at the moment.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead to the agenda of the meeting.
Okay, good morning, President Lenny and Directors Coleman and Young. So just as a reminder, at the October 26th Ad Hoc Committee meeting, we reviewed 3 proposals to adjust the boundaries between wards 5 and 7 to get those wards within the target ward population deviation of 3%. Today, we want to review those proposals again and receive any public comment on those proposals. And we have Risha Cole, Secretary of the District, and George McQuarrie, Senior Software Engineer, who will lead the discussion.
Middle.
Yeah. Good morning again. Clifford just kind of reviewed. We're going to do a recap of you'll bring up the presentation? Thank you. All right. And if you can shift to the next slide. So Clifford almost recapped the October 26th committee meeting. And then George McQuarrie, our GIS staff person, will go over the ward population data, board adopted guidelines, review the ward population deviation percentages. He'll present proposals 1, 2, and 3. And then we'll talk about next steps and answer any additional questions from the committee or the public. Next slide. And so as Clifford said, at the October 26th committee meeting, we reviewed the 3 proposals, which George will review shortly. The committee chose proposal 1 because it is easiest geographically for customers to determine their ward and director. Customers in San Lorenzo, the area where proposal 1 is, who may contact the district to determine their director or which ward they're in, will be able to let staff know that they reside on either the Bay side or the hillside. During the October 26th meeting, staff was asked to consider holding an in-person public meeting in the San Leandro, San Lorenzo area to update residents about the district's redistricting proposals. That in-person meeting would have happened after our proposed time for the board to consider proposal 1. We were going to present proposal 1 to the board today at the regular meeting, but staff determined that we should hold this committee meeting instead to receive public comment on the 3 proposals before forwarding the proposals to the board for consideration and for the board to consider proposal one. Staff researched potential meeting locations to see if we could hold a in-person meeting, and the prospective agencies that we contacted told us that they were not scheduling in-person meetings for their facilities in January or February, and that would have been the timeline for us to have in-person meetings in that area to receive public comment. And so we're holding today's meeting to allow the public to comment on the three proposals. Staff sent out targeted outreach in the San Leandro, San Lorenzo area using WaterSmart emails, and posted a message to Nextdoor for the entire service area. Next slide. And so I'm going to turn it over to George, and he will go over ward population data and the three proposals.
Thank you very much. So each ward has gained a population since the 2010 census. Some wards have grown more than others, but we've had 10% growth across the entire district. The total service area population in 2020 is 1,477,418. Next slide, please. The board adopted a target ward population deviation of 3%, with the target ward population being 211,060, which is our 1,477,418 divided by 7, and with a little rounding, just a little bit, that comes to our 3% deviation of 6,332. So the lowest accepted ward population would be 204,728. The highest ward population would be 217,392. So Ward 5 is above the board adopted allowable deviation of 3%. It's at 217,828, which is 436 too high and places it at 3.23%. Ward 7 shares a border with Ward 5 and has the second highest deviation. It is negative 1.92%, or 207,016. Next slide, please. This is showing the actual numbers. As you can see, the largest population is in red, and the lowest population of the 7 wards is in blue. But we've seen tremendous growth in ward number 5 of 13. We've still seen growth in Ward 7 of 9.32, but it's the lowest of our total in total population currently. So there were 3 proposals in front of the board for their consideration. Next slide, please. This is showing the area between Ward 5 and 7, where they are adjacent to each other. The goal was to move some population from Ward 5 to Ward 7, or the purple area on the left to the green area on the right. This is showing in the red box the area where the border is shared. Next slide, please. Closer up. This is a closer up of them. I want to make the point that all 3 of these proposals are currently in Ward 5, and the proposals were to merely move one of the 3 from purple to green, from left to right, from Ward 5 to Ward 7. Proposal 1 is up first.
Next slide.
Next slide, please. So proposal 1 was to move the area of San Leandro that is east of Highway 880 from Ward 5 to Ward 7. This is the area south of San Leandro Creek between 880 and the Southern Pacific Railroad. The total population for proposal 1 is 4,637. Next. This is an outline of the proposed proposal 1 with its census blocks. Staff called this the fish because of its outline. If you note down at the bottom of the tail, the bottom of your screen where the tail of the fish is, you've got that little fin where there's a boot. You'll be seeing that shortly after this. But this was proposal 1. Next, please. And this is what the general effects would be, or the effects. It would reduce ward number 5 from 3.23% to 1.09, which would then put it within the board adopted allowable deviation, while raising Ward 7 from its negative 1.92 to this 0.28%. Next slide, please. Proposal 2 is a subset. It is to move the minimum amount from Ward 5 to Ward 7 to meet the board adopted allowable deviation of 3%. It is the area of San Lorenzo east of Highway 880 and south of Lansing Way. It moves one census block with a population of 508. Remember, the target was moving at least 436, and 2 street blocks with 0 population that contain the water supply to this area. Next slide. So you can see here, it was one single census block that's populated, 508. We believe that's because there's a retirement home in that block. And on the edge, you have the 2 street census blocks with 0 population. That gray area to the left is the Hayward Water and Sewer System. That is outside of our district. That is another district. And again, the goal would be moving this district from purple, Ward 5, into green, Ward 7. Next slide, please. Proposal 2 would be the bare minimum and change Ward 5 to being 2.99%, while moving Ward 7 to negative 1.68%. Next slide, please. Proposal 3 was trying to move north of the San Leandro Creek. It is, San Leandro Creek. It's recognizing that San Leandro is already split between wards 5 and 7, and it's split along Highway 880. The goal was to move the greenhouse marketplace area in San Leandro from Ward 5 to Ward 7, but again, extending along the north side of San Leandro Creek. Next slide, please. The reason this is chosen was because it seemed to be initially a nice triangle-shaped area. You can see the creek on the lower edge, and you can see the roads on the left edge. Unfortunately, when we did the math, the population was not above 436. So we had to add those additional census blocks to the upper left that you see, and that changed what was originally being called the cheese wedge into, some people called this a dinosaur with a tail. I call it a dodo bird because it didn't fly when it was presented to the board. So this is proposal 3 though, next page. Again, it would be moving a minimal amount. It would be getting Ward 5 to 2.94%, and it would get Ward 7 slightly less negative to 1.63%. So in the end, the redistricting committee chose proposal 1 because it is the easiest geographically for customers to determine their ward and their director. Customers in San Lorenzo who want to contact their director, they simply need to know which side of Highway 880, which almost everyone drives, they reside on. If they reside on the bay side, then they are in ward number 5. If they reside on the hillside, they will be in ward number 7. This is consistent with what has already happened in San Lorenzo above them, San Leandro above them, pardon me. Proposal 1 also provides additional constituents for Ward 7 and brings Ward 7 much closer to the target population goal for 2020 than did proposals 2 or 3. Back to you, Risha.
All right, thank you. So George presented the proposals specifically to allow the public the opportunity to comment. And I'm at the podium, and so do we have anyone on the line for public comment? Okay, so we see no hands for public comment. Do we have any questions or additional comments from the Redistricting Ad Hoc Committee? No?
John, go ahead.
Great, thank you. Thank you, George and Risha, for this. We were provided revised documents for this yesterday. So I want to make sure that the revised documents that we have from you, Risha, are reflective of what George just presented and their accuracy. So we don't say yes on option 1 or proposal 1, let's say, and then find out later that it's there's some flaw and it creates some confusion.
Thank you.
If I could address that? There were some revisions because the Census Bureau messed up a little bit how it was counting populations in prisons and other.
George, no, that's the revision that I sent yesterday did not have to do with the population numbers. So that was addressed in October. The revision that was sent yesterday, the numbers in the memo the numbers were transposed, and it was stating that the decrease would happen in Ward 7 instead of Ward 5. And so where the proposals were listed in the staff report for Proposal 1, it said initially this proposal would decrease the Ward 7 population from this amount to this amount and increase the Ward 5 population from this amount to this amount. George's presentation is correct. The staff report was incorrect. The numbers were transposed for the wards.
Yeah, that's how the memo described it. I just wanted to make sure that we're meeting the measure and test of the law, that's all.
Yes, thank you. I meant to mention that at the beginning of the presentation that the staff report had been updated, sent to the board, and also posted on the web and will be a part of the final board materials for this meeting.
Thank you. Thank you, Risha.
Well,
I just wanted to thank George and the rest of the staff for making the maps that we got much clearer and easier to see. Thank you.
okay. Any other questions or comments? Next slide.
If not,
Go ahead.
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Next slide. Okay. And so we had this meeting so that the committee could receive public comment. And next steps are to forward the 3 proposals to the board, and for the board to consider, after the committee reaffirms today, Proposal 1, to present during the first public hearing, which is scheduled on February 8th. So the committee will forward the 3 proposals to the board for consideration at the first meeting in January 2022. The board will confirm the final proposal to present for public comment at public hearings in February and March 2022. And then the board is scheduled to adopt the final proposal at their meeting on April 12th, 2022 to meet the April 17th county deadline. And just a reminder that per the election code, the board is required to hold 2 public hearings, one before adjusting the boundaries of the wards, and at least one public hearing at least one public hearing at which the board votes to approve or defeat the proposed ward adjustments. And so we'll have 2 public hearings. We have 2 public hearings scheduled, one in February, one in March, and then the board would meet in April. And that concludes our presentation.
All right, do we need a formal recommendation or new recommendation?
If you could reaffirm
sent to the
that the committee will be forwarding Proposal 1 to the board.
I will move that we reaffirm support for Proposal 1 to forward to the
Second
board.
that.
All right, motion and a second. And just to be clear, we're sending all 3 proposals to the board, but we are recommending Proposal 1 in this motion,
Correct.
or reaffirming that we're recommending.
Yes.
1.
Correct.
All right.
So
we'll
I'm sorry, we have one hand for public comment, so I'm gonna go back to my desk so that we can take public comment.
Okay.
Okay. Kelly A., you should be able to unmute your mic. And your 3 minutes will start now.
So I'd just like to make it very clear that what I'm seeing on Proposal 1, which is your very favorite one, seems to be the most favorable one for the present incumbents, the most one with the least change. What I see here in Proposal 1 is an isolated island that reminds me of East Pakistan. Pakistan used to be, is now called the Bangladesh. But in the old days, it was all one country. So the east part of Ward 7 seems to be San Ramon, but San Ramon has been balkanized, bifurcated, split, and there's this section of Ward 7, or section of San Ramon that's being thrown in with Castro Valley, even though it seems to be separated by a large empty gap. Now, you can do that, but are we throwing the Fair Maps Act? Are we throwing that out the window? Are you not paying any homage at all? No respect, just tossing that? I thought that was supposed to be your guideline for best practice. Are you practicing, is this some type of malpractice, political malpractice? What the heck is going on here in in Ward 7? And then also, what about the Hayward, the Costco Business Center in Ward 7? Has that been fixed? I hope, but that's you know, where the two rectangles meet at a corner at a point. But if you're not worried about the Fair Maps Act, we don't need to worry about two rectangles that meet at whose corners meet at a point, do we? We can just you know, fly by the seat of the pants and do whatever is best to make the incumbents most comfortable, most safe, most secure, and most happy. I believe that the Fair Maps Act you should at least be paying lip service to it. My God, thank you.
Kelly, I'm sorry, could we get your last name for the record as well?
The last name is Abreu. Abreu is spelled Alpha, Bravo, Romeo, Echo, Uniform.
All right, thank you.
And can we find out, I'd like to know where Kelly, what ward he lives in.
I'd like to stop with this disingenuous questioning again. I've told you this is the fourth time. Is this question coming from Director Frank Mellon?
No,
Director Frank Mellon.
No,
you know,
Director Mellon is not on the call. This is Director
oh,
Coleman.
okay. Well, Frank
who's
Mellon has
asking the
asked me
question.
this. Director Mellon has asked me this three times. This is now the fourth time.
Kelly, I'm
Every
sorry, can you
single
answer
time
the
I appear
question?
here,
It's a
I've been
simple
asked this.
question.
It's I'm a proud resident of Alameda County Water District. That's right here in the watershed of the San Francisco Bay Area. I always have the same answer for that question.
All right.
And I highly recommend that you follow not what they do, but follow what Rob Bonta has written in the state law. It's called the Fair Maps Act. It was enacted in 2019 or 2020.
All right, John,
can
do you have something else you wanted to add, John?
And have
Yeah,
the
I
same
just-
kind of, you
I
know,
just
all right,
wanted to
you-
make.
my place of residence has nothing to do with the
All right,
Fair Maps.
Mr. Abro, thank you.
That's fine.
You've had your 3 minutes. John?
I just want to make note that the current ward boundaries, where in this case, Director Mellon has that part of San Ramon, he's represented it for now 10 years, 1 decade. And it's actually connected via the Southern Loop pipeline. Now there's, which goes through Crow Canyon Road, that has been extremely beneficial to our water supply, meeting our needs in the event of an emergency. So for the last decade, Director Mellon has represented that portion of San Ramon. And there are other cities that are also bifurcated due to population swings, not just San Ramon.
I would add that you know, in my ward and in other places, and I'm not sure why in my ward it's still colored in, but the middle section of the ward map leaves white areas of public land or watershed land or parks, and those areas in white, in fact, are those types of areas. So one could, you know, extend the green, you know, all the way over. It's just a, you know, a mapping thing. There's no population there, but in fact, the land is not disconnected. It's you know, we have our district resources are continuous in those areas. So that's another, you know, aspect of it. Because one might wonder why my district is bifurcated by the hills and Tilden Park and our watershed. So that's the reason.
All right, any other comments?
I have no other hands for public comment.
All right. We'll then call for a roll call vote.
Okay. Director Coleman,
Yes.
Director Young,
Yes.
Director Lenny.
Yes. All right, that carries unanimously. Any other business that we need to conduct at this point?
That's it?
All right, then I will adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.